Welcome back to another episode of Spiritual Teachers Podcast. With me today is a dear friend of many years now, Har-Dev Khalsa. Har-Dev is a yogi, a Kundalini Yoga practitioner, a mortgage broker, a husband, a father, and a Sikh practitioner. Welcome on, Har-Dev. It's such an honor to have you.
Ooh, Peter, brother, thank you, man. It's been a while. It's good to see your face, your smile, man. Thanks.
Good
Thank
to
you.
see you
Love the
too,
green
man.
shirt, man.
Yeah, this
Love the
is
green
really
shirt.
awesome. Thanks, man. I got my
Yeah.
extraterrestrial on my shirt, so people know
Yeah.
what's up.
Matching my green turban, man. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, man. When with the screen next to each other, you can totally see it. So, man, it's awesome to have you on. I'm super curious about your awakening journey, how things started for you, how you found Kundalini Yoga, how you found Sikhism, and today some of the things that we'll try to dive into, depending on how spirit takes us, is receiving Amrit, uh, being a Sikh warrior or a Nihang. We can we'll shout out to our Kundalini Yoga teachers.
Yeah.
We'll talk about white Tantric Yoga, summer and winter solstice, and potentially dive into some of the guardians and guides in our life.
Wow. Sounds great. You know, Peter, I, I know you're asking the questions, but I got one that I got to ask right off the
Okay,
cuff.
let's do it.
I love the experience of spiritual awakening, and I wanted just to know for you what is that? What's that experience like for you? What is it that really gets you most excited about spiritual awakening, and what is that? I'm just curious to know.
So, one of the reasons this podcast was created and started was because I want to create a space where people that are waking up around the planet can find these teachings, can find people like yourself, and see what's available for their spiritual growth and development, for their soul's expansion. And when I was awakening, I really desired something like this to be available. So now I felt really called to create this so that others can find it and be able to share, learn, and experience things that aren't very common in America, or
Yeah.
even around the world. So that's what this podcast is all about, is bringing people the awarenesses and the teachings that are available. So thank you for
Wow.
coming on, man. I know you're a plethora of wisdom, man.
Oh, well, no, man. Just somebody hit me in the head, so I don't know what.
Oh
Man.
man, you're very humble, man. I really appreciate
Uh,
that. So
no, bro. No. Well, it sounds like the process of transformation is like capturing that experience for what that is and being able to connect with that
absolutely.
is something that you're passionate about.
Absolutely. Yeah. So can you share a little bit how it all started for you?
Sure. You probably need a little bit of ground. You kind of gave a little bit of intro there, but essentially, it's really interesting because we talk about and want to learn about people's experiences. And as I'm 36 today, with an 8-month-old son, and in the world of running my own business, helping people buy homes and things like that. But then meditating every day and going to yoga festivals and connecting with people on that level. Transformation. I constantly walk around and I think about this a lot, of transformation and spiritual awakening, and that it's constantly happening to me. Like every strike of breath, it's constantly transforming. And my wife definitely amplifies it. Challenges me in ways, and part of why I really gravitate towards more Kundalini style, specifically under that Yogi budget in the 3HO community, because that's where I was brought in
Hmm.
back '08 and '09. That's kind of the avenue that I was brought in, and it just the vibration was there, and I'm in forever gratitude for those people in that spiritual community because of how much they've given me and continue to give to me and my family. So I'm very much in gratitude and service to the community just for what they've fostered an environment and container and given me so much rebirth and values and richness and wealth and in subtle ways that I felt like for my own reasons that I didn't deserve. So anyways, that's the kind of realm that I was kind of brought in. And as I continue to be in Fresno, California these days, where there's very little. Fresno, California is very more on the conservative side versus your LA, your San Fran, or your San Diego type vibe. Mm-hmm. So there's yogis here, but in the spiritual, lighter sense, more spiritually kind of tuned in and going into that depth and dimension of internal experience. There's just not as many as your LA or your San Fran. Mm-hmm. And so I think about this a lot, and I think about transformation, and it really is happening all the time. All the time. It's just constantly happening. But I would say for a lot of people, it's happening a lot less just due to developmental practices of their families or, the programming that they're in. It's not their fault. It's just kind of how people were brought into it. But for some reason, I fell off a motorcycle when I was 18 and then had to go to jail for a couple of weeks for failing, for drugs, essentially. And so those happened within like a 3-month window. And that was like, all right, I severely damaged my body in a motorcycle accident. Then I went to a place that I never wanted to go back. And that kind of put the blinders on for me to, all right, let's do things where you want to be exceptionally well or good at or healthy. Let's do everything opposite of what I was doing before.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that takes me.
Right.
I was 18 and pretty much just a kid, mm-hmm. all banged up and just getting, just grew up, alcohol, drugs, just fine. But, I wasn't an addict per se, but I did it. And, if you're thinking about it, I did it, except for ayahuasca. I've never done that. Mm-hmm. But for the most part, coming from that to, 1836, it's different. It's been a while. I've just been kept up meditation and yoga and elevating myself and other people, being with other people has been my new drug of choice now these days.
Yeah.
So it's kind of
sounds like you had kind of a wild young life, huh?
Yeah. Memphis, Tennessee, it's
not much to do around there, but ride bikes and do some drugs here and there, right?
That's right, man. That's right. And throw some beer bottles. Hell yeah. And shoot them with some BB guns and real guns.
Yeah. Okay. So you were 18, this kind of like sparked it. It sounds like, right? It sparked you wanting to be a better person, a better man. Right. And so what did you find first out of the different teachings? Did you go to a yoga class? Like what kind of started it for you?
That's a great question, because it's definitely layers in an evolution that people go through. For me, right out of jail, the first thing was, okay, we're going sober. We're going full sober, and I'm going to go all the way. I'm a perfectionist. I'm a king of self-doubt. I am never doing it well. I never look good enough. I never speak well enough. I never sound good enough. I never am good enough. It's like constantly tricking, that's my constant challenge I'm facing. And perfectionism and all that. Mm-hmm. So to combat my challenge, my perfectionism, my self-doubt is I got to be incredibly the best at it. So I'm going to be incredibly the best sober person I can ever be, and live the best, better than everyone else. Right. That's kind of the immediate experience that I went through. And so I went full sober. And then I kind of trickled back into it. And I kind of learned that actually my tribe really is something that was really important. So when I quit those people that I'd known since kindergarten at that time, just like some good friends and that drank and smoked, and I stopped hanging out with them, and then I found yoga, and then ran into Kundalini Yoga. And at Kundalini Yoga, the experience impacted my body and mind so much that I consciously could have an incredible experience of evolution in so much power, so quickly, of evolving. And what that means for me is I felt a lot more fluidity in broken bones, a lot of scar tissue, kind of disruption a little bit, coming back a lot more fluidity in my spine and my shoulder blade where I broke some bones. I damaged my frontal cortex, my brain, bruised it. Analytical, logical thinking. I remember sitting in the doctor's office saying, "You're going to struggle with this." And it was true. Afterwards, I went back to school, college at the time, and I struggled, man. I struggled hard. But then I went to jail, got out of jail, cleaned up, started trying to sober up. And essentially, sobering was the first level, getting rid of everything. Like, if it's not going to be healthy, I don't want it. And seriously, like alcohol, all drugs, done. And then I battled with that. But then once I said no to the people, then I found yoga and meditation. I basically got rid of one habit and just substituted a more positive and productive one.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, at 18, you were way ahead of the curve. You know what I mean? It took me into my later 20s to dive out of that world, but yeah, man. For each their own, right? We find it's so interesting because Yogi Bhajan passed in 2004, so it sounds like you missed him just by 4 years.
Thank God.
Yeah, right. He was such a Piscean teacher, man.
I say that, but there's a spectrum to that. Like, thank God, because I probably would have evolved in a certain way, but without ever having met him, it almost enamors me more towards his teachings. I know there's all kinds of lots of different frequencies around him, and that energy, which I don't have any conclusive, experience to determine. But what I do know for a fact is my experience when I breathe 1 minute per breath.
The teachings, I'll say it because when you were speaking about finding yoga, I remember the first time I found Kundalini Yoga, it was in the middle of Scranton, Pennsylvania. This tiny little studio. It wasn't even an actual yoga studio. It was this tiny little studio connected to like a box. There was boxing in the same room sometimes. They had all kinds of stuff going on. And this teacher, I don't remember her name right now, unfortunately, but the first time I went into that class, man, it blasted me out of this world. Like, I started seeing past lifetimes flashing through my mind. I started seeing other dimensions, because we rolled around on the ground and moved our arms for a little bit. You know what I mean? Like, I was like, what just happened here?
Yeah.
But the craziest part for me was that I kept looking for something. I kept trying different yogas, and I was like, okay, I tried the vinyasa, I tried the ashtanga, I tried the what other ones? There was like 3 or 4 other ones that I tried, right? Like the yin yoga, you name it. And then when I found this, I was like, this is what I was looking for. And I was like, I gotta teach this. Like, immediately I was like, I gotta find my teachers. I know this. So what was do you remember your first class?
You were like, blast off, I'm in, where's the next step?
Right.
Yeah. Actually, I saw color. I was like, my vision was, immediately I could feel my brain tickling, and my frontal brain, I could just feel alleviation, essentially. And I could sit with more concept thought, more complex thought. And, now I'm doing a bunch of math.
Right.
Actually, 3 years later, after my first Kundalini Yoga class, and I went out and just joined the community and just did Kundalini Yoga every day. 3 years later, I went back to school, and that was in 2012. And I went back for psychology. And then in 2016, 4 years later, I graduated with a 3.74 GPA. And that was all, I would have been able to do that focus and kind of getting back in and, kind of focusing on that. It was all meditation and,
Wow.
and I wouldn't be able to do that. I mean, now I don't even use psychology degree, but I'm mostly helping people buy houses. So.
Right. Man, that's such a profound experience. I mean, that's borderline magic, like how this technique, this technology, this yogic technology that, some of the stuff I believe Yogi Bhajan did make up, but a lot of it, when you look back at ancient yogic teachings, a lot of it is in there, like Sakriya, I believe has been maybe tens of thousands of years old, well, since yogis decided to put their arm up behind their head, I believe they
Right.
found Sakriya, and Sakriya for those that don't know, Sakriya is a breathing technique where you use breath of fire and you bring your arms above your head and you have your fingers interlaced and you're pumping the breath and you're breathing out just the nostrils. And I mean, there's so many different kriyas, which are these yogic sets. And sounds like you had so you started seeing colors in your first class. What else did you
Yeah.
experience?
Yeah. Sakriya is an incredible one. But yeah, at that first class, I definitely drove away in my car looking around, and it was not a normal trip back to my house as I was driving. It was definitely like I was looking in awe, like, whoa, I'm seeing, it's like the veil has lifted and I could see behind the curtain. And
Mm.
there was another experience, but it was more clear and it was more true. And man, fuck, I smoked that shit, kept rolling.
Right.
I was like, I got to do this again. Really, I remember, Peter, the most profound. I still remember that from that first class, like you, is I'd never been so clear about my emotions. Never been so clear about what my emotions were, and that is empowering to me. Is when I'm very clear about the state that I'm in, and
We
so
we lost you there for a second, Har-Dev. Can you repeat that last couple
yeah.
sentences?
Am I coming through now?
Yeah. Hmm.
What I remember specifically was I was very clear about my emotions, which was something that I did not have a lot of experience with at 18, drinking 5, 6 nights out of the week. Was not had the opportunity to be very clear about that. And it was as if every conversation I was having that day was like a test and I was passing it with flying colors. And I felt confident about that conversation, sustained, satiated, and purposeful in that conversation. And that's when I knew that there was so much more to existence than and I was just ready to soak up anything and everything. But the Kundalini Yoga definitely helped me make those connections.
Amazing. So, where were you at the time? Were you in Tennessee?
Memphis, Tennessee, yeah, at that time.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
did that kind of start your search for your teachers as well?
Yeah. Yeah. What I wanted was tribe. I wanted people
Hmm.
and practice at that time. So that was the initial awakening. Like you want and you have to, in my experience, need to be around like-minded people that want to do the same thing that you do. And at that time for me specifically was sadhana. I wanted to go practice 2.5 hours every day in the morning with other people who were doing it at 3 a.m, and then go out and just be excellent in the world, whatever that meant.
Hmm.
I didn't even know what that meant, but I knew if I'm around other people and we're doing this together, then anything is possible. And that's really what lit up my heart at those beginning stages was, all right, let's go find some people. So immediately I go to jail and then come out, get sober, and I'm doing like you, Peter. I was doing hathas, vinyasas. I was doing Bikram yoga, the hot yoga, for a year. So about 2009, in the summer solstice, I went to 2009 was my first one. Or excuse me, 2010. 2010 summer solstice was my first one that I went to. All 2009, I was shedding my tribe, learning Kundalini yoga, kind of doing that. And then 2010 came around. I was like, fuck it. I'm going to summer solstice.
You're going into the deep end, man.
Yeah, yeah. And I was in a teacher training, actually a Kundalini training in Memphis, the first one ever, actually, first one ever. I was in that. It was just like a couple yogis kind of doing it. We were just excited to do it. And there's 20 or 30 people, and it was a pretty good group back in 2010.
Yeah.
And I was like, hey, if you guys, we're practicing Kundalini, we're doing the same thing. If you guys, anybody want to go to summer solstice? And everybody was like, no. And I was the first one. I was the first one, but I went by myself, got on a plane, went to New Mexico for the first time. And then at summer solstice, I remember that first day, man, I looked around, I was like, I am home. I'm here. Everybody's getting up, doing yoga together. We're all practicing eating, very healthy, for the most part, so it's definitely a bubble where you can go and transform, like even, kick it into overdrive and just go dive in. And then I knew at summer solstice in 2010, this is where I wanted to be. After summer solstice, I immediately moved up to an ashram in the East Coast, in Millis, Massachusetts, where I lived there for a couple of years. And then I went to India and worked at the school there for a couple of years, or not for a couple of years, but for actually 6 months. I was there for 6 months in India working at the school. And then I lived in New Mexico full-time after that in 2012 in New Mexico at the Mother Ashram.
Okay.
There. Just did sadhana all the time. That's all I did. I worked for a guy in exchange to live in his house. And then I just did sadhana. That's all I cared about. And then eventually I went back to school, and then eventually, because the path is, as you get into Kundalini Yoga, the path is the path of the householder. So you eventually are working to be part of the community in some sort of, and essentially having a house, paying bills, having kids, all that stuff, all that jazz, that there's more transformation into that process. So that's kind of what led me to where I am.
Amazing. What a journey, man. I have a few questions. So you mentioned summer solstice, and for those that don't know, summer solstice, it happens every year. Do you remember the date?
Yeah. It's a week in June. About, this year it's the June 9th, that weekend to the 21st.
Okay.
June 9th. So that every year.
Okay, and so there's a gathering in the main ashram that Yogi Bhajan started in New Mexico, and sometimes hundreds of people show up, right, for 3 to 4 days?
Oh, yeah. No, it's, used to be about 5,000. Now it's kind of dwindled down to about nearly 1,000, roughly.
Okay.
Just because of the evolution of the community and things of that nature.
So the first one you went to, was it around that, 5,000?
About 5,000 people. It's crazy, man.
That's like a festival right there.
Oh, yeah.
That's festival numbers right there.
Imagine. So the climax of summer solstice. Well, we're talking about summer solstice, which happens, every year.
Every year this happens, yeah.
Right. Summer's not just the festival, but just the actual event of summer, and it being the longest day of the year, summer solstice. So this particular event's called Summer Solstice Celebration. Summer Solstice Celebration. Summer Solstice Celebration in Kundalini Yoga essentially is the only main. It's a Kundalini Yoga festival, but the climax, Peter, is 3 days of white Tantric Yoga. That's the climax.
Yes.
Of the festival. So about half of camp will actually do Tantric. So then about 2,500 people sitting in lines, Tantric lines, chanting. These meditations are minimum. You're doing about 8 a day with 20-minute breaks in between them, but minimum 31 minutes. Some of them are 62 minutes long throughout the day. You have a little light lunch that they serve, Tantric burgers, which are really good.
And you're doing it with a partner, usually of the opposite sex, right?
No, you can do it with same.
It's a balance of. It's supposed to be a balance of masculine and feminine energy, right?
Correct. Yeah, correct.
So on one side, they recommend the men to sit on, the other side the women to sit on, and so it's actually very strategically um, organized, right? Where there's the what they call the Z energy is able to cut through and clear out lifetimes of karma with each one of these days, right?
Exactly. And so when we do an individual meditation, when I meditate on my own, this is like we refer to this as individual consciousness. I'm working on my subconsciousness, reviewing it, scanning it, training it, um, focusing my conscious. But essentially, if I'm doing a meditation on my own in my individual consciousness, I'm I'm essentially emptying out and so that I can be more present into the internal and external conflicts or environments or experiences that I'm having. So be more clear about who I am. Is that internal? Is that meditation, that daily meditation? When you meditate in a group, it's called group consciousness, right? And then that group consciousness is what carries you into that third space that we have deep within us that can be sometimes tough to access or assess because we have a lot of disruptions or conflicts or challenges or blocks, which we refer to as the supreme consciousness, Buddha consciousness, Christ consciousness, ecstasy, peace, nirvana. It's same experience, just different labels and terms. So
Yeah.
so sharing here, Peter, is that tantric, you get to that supreme consciousness experience, the ecstasy through the group consciousness. So that's why it's when you meditate with a group or you go to the hot yoga studio with people, you're going to go deeper when you meditate with other people. So when you meditate on your own, you're emptying subconscious material. When you meditate in Kundalini Yoga, it's more active meditation. Like we're either inhaling through the left nostril, holding the breath, pumping the stomach 48 times and thinking Waheguru, and then exhaling out of the right nostril and doing that for 62 minutes or 31 minutes, or maybe 11 minutes, maybe 3 minutes. But that is an active practice, active meditation. It's we're not just sitting and just taking, just sitting there in silence. It's active. Most of Kundalini is active meditation. And then in those small moments at the end is where you feel the expanse and the expansion that feels like a whole day has gone by, but it's only been 30 seconds. You've been actively knocking
Right.
your psycho-neuro-endo-immunological system like a clown, just thinking and breathing and,
Right.
and flexing real intensely, right?
Yeah.
But what I'm saying to say here, Peter, is that the individual meditation, you have that experience, and ultimately it's just processing and releasing subconscious material, that lifetimes that you're referring to. And then the tantric energies, like when you go and do white tantric yoga, it doesn't get any greater than that as far as shoveling out your subconscious shit. You just go through and burn subconscious material through one session of tantric yoga. I mean, white tantric yoga, but it's also still do 3 days of that stuff, and it is unlike anything on planet Earth. And if people are listening to this, maybe you'll be lucky. You'll be lucky to go do white tantric yoga. Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I've experienced it 3 times. I've done it in LA, just like one day each
Yeah.
time. And I like at the end of it, I'm like floating. I'm having it's profound. It's really profound. It's highly recommended if you're able to attend that. There is a dress code. You have to wear all white, and I think head coverings are recommended as well, right?
Right. Yeah.
And so it's powerful because they have these recordings of Yogi Bhajan teaching. And at least the one I went to, there's a huge, huge screen, and he's talking to you and he's guiding you through these practices. And you're doing it with another human. And so there's a mirror, a physical human mirror sitting in front of you. And, I've done it 2 times with previous partners that I was with at the time. And then I did one with a person I met that day, which there was some sort of recognition there's some sort of soul recognition with that person. But
Mm,
that was my first time meeting this woman in this lifetime. But it was it was really interesting because I think the most profound experience I had was with that person that I just met that day. And because like there wasn't anything there. You know what I mean? Like there wasn't any conflict, there wasn't any anger, there wasn't any frustration. None of that was there. It was just this pure
mm,
mirror sitting in front of me. And
right.
I remember like one of the postures was like this, where we had one arm at 60 degrees, the other arm down at 60 degrees, and we're holding hands, looking in each other's eyes, breathing through our nose, And that one stood out to me because it was 62 minutes of that, and arms going numb, everything's kind of like barely hanging in there, but like everybody around still going, and I'm like, all right, if they're doing it, I can do it.
That's right. That's right. Hell yeah.
And
That was
and
powerful.
yeah, I mean, I'm curious though, like how does one day of white tantric yoga compare to 3 days in a row? Like,
Yeah,
what do you find that there's a big difference in that?
totally. Yeah, 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 yeah. My ass hurts.
Everything's sore, right?
Knees hurt. Yeah, 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 yeah. But that is it, man. You just gotta go through it for sure. But it definitely is a whirlwind when you're doing those 3 days for sure, for
Yeah,
sure.
it seems like time kind of warps, and a
Hmm.
lot of it almost like stands still for those experiences, and then it's really hard to describe in words what these experiences are like.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I definitely, as I started in 2010, I was like 20 by that time, 19, 20 by that time. And, I was by that time a boy who had no idea what sex was, or struggled with what grace was, or struggled with courage, struggled with fear. I was still growing emotionally at that time. And most of my habitual self was programmed for, let's get drunk and have sex. Like, let's go. Like, that's kind of, that's what come out of that lust. That's what I was raised around. So, but I'm also, I come from a Southern family where you never hit a woman. Doesn't matter if she's punching you, so we've got, that dynamic I come from. So I had respect, but respect for the opposite sex. And I'm speaking about this because specifically for me, as I remember starting tantric to today, it definitely helped me evolve and develop a relationship with lust myself,
Okay.
with with uh, with my initial development of interacting with the opposite sex.
Hmm.
It definitely helped me to evolve into a sisterly, bigger sister, younger sister relationship, and have actually real, authentic relationships with women that were not where I needed to be in a like the cool guy who was getting laid type mentality, because that's where that's what I was raised in.
Hmm.
And yeah, not to my parents' fault, but it's just kind of just where the creator put me.
Right, right, right.
But it taught me to develop real relationships with women, and that was so empowering, man. I'm just so grateful to be able to do that because when I was 20 in 2012, I learned how to salsa dance. I love to dance. Like I just freaking love it, man. I don't know what it is. Disco comes on, and I'll fucking go. I love it.
Yeah, yeah, dude, I'm
Yeah,
right there with you, man.
love it.
I
Love
used
it.
to drive out to Newark, New Jersey to learn salsa. Like it was like a
Oh,
40
no
minute
way.
drive. Yeah.
Out of here. Get out of here. How long
Yeah.
did you dance for?
Uh, about a year, I think I took lessons for. Yeah.
Oh man, I drank the Kool-Aid, bro. It's like by this time I was living in New Mexico, going back to school and at Northern New Mexico College in New Mexico, and I was living in the ashram, just doing Kundalini Yoga. That's all I was doing for about a year and a half. And then, as an elective, I took a salsa dancing class, and the teacher was
Mm,
fucking cool. He's a Native American guy,
nice.
um, and he was super smooth with it. And then I get to interact with women in a way where I'm the lead. I'm leading
Hmm.
this thing, you
Right.
know. And then the music is just popping. I love it, man. Something about a cowbell. ultimately the bass is playing syncopated notes, offbeat notes, so it's super funky in nature, even though it sounds very classically salsa. You get the horns, you get the singers, and it's really got everything, all the roots, all the way up to the higher ethers, ethers of vocals and horns. You've got everything in between, from the earth to the heavens, in a salsa song, and then they jam. There's a minute, at least a solid minute in there, where they're hitting that cowbell, and it's just they go and they are going like if you're in a Fish song and it's time for the solo, and they're just gonna fucking solo for the next 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Every salsa song has that.
Yeah.
But it's way more organized. They got music sheets, and it's just super organized. And that can be kind of like the off appeal for it, is that it's just, it's salsa music. But when you listen to it musically, it is a fucking party.
Yeah.
And that cowbell hits, and they're jamming. They're
Oh
jamming.
yeah.
They don't jam as hard as Fish, but like a jam
Yeah.
band.
Yeah.
But I recognize those elements in it. So the music got me. This dude was killing it, and he was leading a woman. And then he was just, then you could basically do that all night long. You could just
Right.
dance with women all night long. So there's this interesting experience I got, where here I am evolving out of this lust experience with myself, with the relationship, into a more graceful relationship with the female polarity. But I get to do it in such a way where I also get to express myself, which I love to do in dance. As a kid, it was disco music, man. Breakout, anything disco, I was doing it. My
I
parents were
loved
playing.
disco as a kid too, man. I had
And
the cassettes.
oh no,
Yeah.
yeah. So I'm only sharing this because I went from 2012 to about 2020. Those 8 years, I was salsa dancing every weekend. And then by the time I got to San Diego, I was like 3 or 4 nights a week I was salsa dancing. Never asked anyone for their phone number, never hooked up with anyone. And the relationships I had with the women were incredible. They always were, even though I had a beard, a turban, my skinny jeans, my t-shirt, I was out there. I cared about just being the best and having the most fun that I could. And that empowered my follow to feel more secure, and me as a dancer, and that they could also just focus on that, rather than, is this person going to try to get my number or try to hit on me or any of that. So I always had treating them with that respect really brought awesome relationships with these women that I still have. And then also a new experience that I hadn't had before, growing up with 4 brothers and us trying to be the cool guys and, try to go out and get laid every weekend, as so it definitely brought in a new experience. And meditating, helped me to stay focused on, what am I really doing here? Yeah, I'm expressing myself. It's a totally selfish act. It's just staying focused on my expression. Because, in salsa, you get close and you touch. And so that energy goes through, and I'm able to kind of take on the music, really get into the music with that. I mean, just pent up sexual energy, right? Just because,
Oh yeah.
as a yogi, specifically, I did choose, when I received Amrit in 2011, which is that Sikh ceremony, I did convert to Sikhism. And part of that ceremony is that you treat the opposite sex as your sister or auntie until you're married. And then, you have your spouse. So I didn't get married till 2019. And so from 2012 to 2019, I was salsa dancing, and I stayed celibate throughout the entire time. Like basically through all my 20s, I was celibate.
Okay. Yeah, man, that's really
I,
rare. That's really rare nowadays for men in that age group.
I told you, bro, like I gotta be like this perfectionist, like self-doubt. I'm the king, man, of it. And so I get like my perfectionist self is like, no, that's the teaching. I'm gonna go and experience it. It's like, it was really hard, but I had my practice and dance as an outlet to kind of massage that energy out of out of myself. So, it's been a journey.
Yeah, man. I mean, I say that, but I did 6 years in my 20s. So,
Oh yeah, yeah.
but it
Nice.
it wasn't because I committed to, a higher, to God and those kind of things. It was just, I had this really tough breakup, and I was like,
No more.
I didn't feel ready, and it wasn't fair for me to open up to another woman until I was completely healed. So I gave myself that period of time to experience to really deeply heal.
I'm glad you brought that up because, I wasn't like shopping for religion, but I did change. And it wasn't because of religion that I mean, it kind of, for me, I think ceremony's fun. So I'm all, I don't mind a ceremony to say, this is who I am now and this is what I value the most and what I'm willing to die for. I'm really willing to die. So, ceremony in that way, I'm all about it. But it's actually the exact same experience you had. I was sick and tired of just having empty sex, and I wanted to essentially better myself more maturely, emotionally, and so that's essentially why I didn't do it. It's because I wanted to be the best that I could be, and that's my goal, that's my thought, and so I didn't want to have sex because I just was sick and tired of having those types of relationships with women, and just wanted to be more emotionally mature.
So that's beautiful, man. I think it's really powerful for men, especially to have that. It felt really empowering for me in a way because it allowed me to really tune into my own energy, into what was me and what wasn't me,
Mhm.
and that was a really important part of my journey. And so, can you share a little bit about how things evolved, because not every Kundalini yogi becomes a Sikh, but there is aspects of Sikhism, which is a religion that is kind of interwoven into Kundalini yoga with the
Sure.
wearing of the turban and different aspects because Yogi Bhajan was a Sikh. And
Sure.
so, you're studying Kundalini for all these years. What was it that made you want to go down that that journey to become a Sikh and receive Amrit and those kind of things?
Yeah, yeah. It sounds like you're asking, there in Kundalini Yoga, there is the exposure to Sikhism, and why did I and continue to be a Sikh, essentially?
Right.
Um, I'm a soldier. I don't know if it's because of my dad or, my parents, but I'm a fucking soldier, man. Somebody says jump, I'll say how fucking high, you know? And I practice every morning, every day, just because Yogi Bhajan said so. I just, and it's like people say, hey, you're just a tool. You're gonna, anybody will tell you to jump. You'll just follow. You're just a follower. Sure, but for me and my own reasons, this was the area transforming. I had the experience. I got the experience,
Hmm.
and I decided for my own reasons to make that transformation. So everything that I've, converting to Sikhism was not because my teacher told me to, or because Yogi Bhajan said so. It's because I chose it, and I decided for my own reasons and my own intention that that's what I wanted to do.
Hmm.
And then here we go. My character defect. I'm a perfectionist. I got to be the best.
Okay. Okay.
I got to come cruising in with my kirpan on, my knife, and you know,
Uh-huh.
and my turban, and my full beard. So part of why, and also Peter, I've been very blessed in this life to be kinetic and to be coordinated, and I never had issues with that, which is why yoga appealed, and I did so well with it and do well with it. Doing postures and breath work and doing it for hours or 3 days straight, I can actually do that.
Hmm.
But where does it all end? Where does it all go? And those questions are what brought me into the more spiritual, intellectual space, and understanding and adapting to specific values and taking those on, and then adapting a specific image with clothing. And so part of just, I guess, by trying to be perfect and then a soldier just let me, just kind of leads me where I go. I guess, so yeah.
Okay. Okay. Beautiful. So I'm curious, was there somebody that you knew that really inspired you? Was it somebody that you met just briefly? Was it your experience in India? Like what was it that kind of like motivated you to go full on? I'm gonna go into that and I'm gonna be the best Sikh I could be.
Yeah, I'd say a percentage of it is at that time I was ready to do something different, look
Okay.
different, sound different. I mean, I even Peter changed my name to Har-Dev. Michael McGowan is my given name. No problems with it. But when I became a Sikh and did took Amrit in that official ceremony where I'm going to take in these values and die for them, that provides meaning, right? It provided meaning for me, to which I did not have that kind of conviction before.
Hmm.
Like I did not have something that I'd be willing to die for before, but today I'm happy to say I will die for something.
Hmm.
And it gives me, that conviction is empowering. It gives me purpose. It gives me, uh, it fuels my self-discipline. It fuels my happiness. It fuels, essentially me. So while religion does have its structure and it's, it's in a lot of different religions, it's just very unappealing, honestly.
Hmm.
Um, but Sikhi appeals to me even more, just how universal in nature it is.
Hmm.
And it is very ambiguous too. There's different levels of the practice, and everybody thinks they're better than everybody. And essentially, at the end of the day, when you're in that mind space, then you're not really in the practice.
Right,
It's
right.
just about you and your focus on your transformation and your energy that you're giving out. And Sikhi is that simple. It's that simple. They don't talk about what happens after you die. They don't talk about this is. They don't talk about history in Sikhism. Like there's no history. I mean, there's some names, but there's no like 10 commandments. There are for some people who want to go to the next level, who like me, maybe even wanted to go to the next level or need to have that level of what are your five values? What you need to wear this, you need to do this, you need to eat this, you need to not eat that. There is that level there for people, but for the most part, it's not. It's essentially an experience, and that experience is nameless. It's timeless. It's colorless. It's just an experience, and that universality is what attracted me to it, and also that I wanted, my perfectionism, my character defect of just trying to be perfect. I wanted to be different, and so I changed my name legally on everything: my birth certificate, my ID, my birth certificate has a little scratched out Michael, and it says Har-Dev.
Wow, wow.
Like I went the full swing into it, man,
Yeah.
because it's just that was just who I am. So but I've yet to meet, I meet very few people that have kind of like jumped in it as deep as me, and I recognize that.
Right.
It's just like that's just I guess what I need, man.
Right on. Okay. So for those that aren't familiar with Sikhism,
Yeah.
can you share a little bit about the turban, why that's worn? Can you share a little bit about the knife that the warriors wear on their side?
That's
Those
right.
kind of
Yeah.
things.
Yeah. So Sikhism literally translates to student, and it essentially is the internal study of your own self. And initially, it starts and has started with teachers and people who've had experiences deep within those inner dimensions, and uh, and have found that through certain practices, you can experience uh, timelessness, or you can experience bounty, you can experience prosperity, you can experience sweetness, you can experience flexibility, you can experience um, depth and warmth amidst a cold planet, cold emotions, suffering, pain, and essentially Sikhi helps to bridge that gap. And that's all religions, but for specifically for students and Sikhs, we study to bridge that gap to constantly move towards those abundant experiences tribally through seva. That was kind of, and I'm kind of generalizing here, but specifically for Sikhs, serving gives and sets is the energetic code that creates the environment of of uh, of these higher experiences or warmer experiences.
And seva is service, selfless service, right?
So doing something without thought or reward of something in return.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that energy sets it. The world, the universe runs by laws, and a natural law is when you do something without return of wanting anything in return for it, and it is in the benefit of another person or another thing. There is a universal, that code will be activated, and then that individual magnetically will experience a little bit more grace in their life. And and then you have to possess an awareness to see it as well, to feel it
Mm-hmm.
as well, But essentially, you don't either. You could just be a cracked out alcoholic, and if you do something good for someone, it's going to come back.
Right.
Everybody generally has karma,
What
good
goes
karma.
around comes around, right?
There you go, man. It's a law. It's a natural law, brother. When I started to do that over the years, that's been the biggest blessing that Sikhism has really kind of, or the practices of Sikhism, and why I maintain it is because of that particular natural law. Is that when you do something for someone, it's going to come back tenfold, tenfold, and it might not be in that moment. It could be a few years later.
Mm-hmm.
You live a lot more gracefully. You don't hurt as much. You don't get hurt as much, and in the hurt that you do receive, it's directly for as a lesson that's going to take you to the next level. So for your question here, I mean, what is Sikhism? It's the fifth largest religion in the world, and it would not be the way that a lot of people think about it is monotheism, one God. But it's not accurate. It's more panentheism, where it's an energy that permeates everything in the individual. So it's an energy.
Mm.
Sikhism really is about tuning into that energy, but not just like Buddhism, where you meditate and you just tune into that. Essentially, Sikhs take that energy into society.
Mm-hmm.
And that is where Sikhs get their return on investment. Experience that universal energy frequency, experience it, and then give it. And when you give it, and Yogi Bhajan was, why he kind of sticks out, for me is because he was pretty shameless about it. He's like, you go serve someone and you're going to have this experience. And this is what it's all about, is just giving it and serving. And when you can't serve anymore, you serve again. You keep serving until you have nothing left. And he kept cramming that message. And it's so true, man, because, when I started when I was 20 to now 36, I cannot even imagine mentally with my limited mind how incredible all the blessings that I have now in grace and just incredible bounty and prosperity, and both all worldly, spiritually. I'm not like bragging here, but I have noticed
Right.
a gain of quality of life.
Big time. Yeah, and I think there's many factors in that, right? There's a devotion to something bigger than self. There's that selfless service. There's a dedication to a practice. I feel like any practice, it could be music, it could be origami, it could be painting, it can be literally anything. If you devote yourself, the universe sees it, and there's these gifts that come, and I've seen direct correlations with it. Like in Kundalini Yoga, it's recommended to do a 40-day practice to start out, right? And then if you like it and you're seeing the results, go for 100 days. If you still like it and you're seeing results, go for 1,000 days, right? And so I've done 1,000 day Kriya,
Oh
and
yeah.
yeah, and it was um, the Kriya for abundance and prosperity, the Subag Kriya, right?
Oh,
And so initially I wasn't seeing the results, quote unquote. Like I would see it here and there, but it was coming as gifts, as different things. It wasn't the awareness, as you said, had to be evolved in order to experience it. But my work was to remove the blocks inside myself to receiving it. And
mm,
that's a key component to this, right? Because we can't receive unless we're fully with our hands open. We can't be like, okay, I'm ready to receive when
right.
your hand's not ready to receive.
Right.
And I think that's part of the why the practice is so powerful. Just meditation, for example, right? Like doing that every day is gonna start to access those programs, those subconscious thoughts and
Mm,
blocks. And
mm,
and it sounds like in your case, some of them are really still serving you. Like I want to be the best, I want to excel at this, right? Like there's something inside you that it's actually really helping you become better, right? And whatever that looks like for you. And then
right.
maybe there'll come a time when that program can go too, and something else will come in, like full self-love or full trust, whatever needs to happen,
Exactly.
right? And then
Exactly.
and then but that I think is a key component, right? Like that, knowing that it's coming, and then being able to know I'm worthy of receiving this.
Amen. Amen.
Yeah. Thanks, man. Yeah, I wanted to wrap. I know we're getting really close on time. I wanted to just, if you can share about why the turban's
Oh,
born, and the knife.
yeah, yeah. Historically, Sikhism will come, and people will argue about this, but essentially, Sikhism comes from a long lineage of yogis. It comes initially from meditators, adept meditators, and and over the years, yogis had to develop self defense. I mean, generations, and they had to, but essentially, the skull is made up of 26 cranial bones, and when you wrap something, wear a hat, it contains the skull, contains the electromagnetic frequency that the brain is constantly going through and burning through. There's some external benefits from protection of the sun, sound, and vibrations. But essentially, by having something wrapped on your head, your brain is the largest organ in the body. And essentially, yogis found that they could take cloth, wrap it, and in their meditations have more contained, more in-depth experiences. So they started doing this back in the day, long time ago. Some of the first yogis, and then kings, they had finances, and yogis didn't have anything. So kings would pay yogis to come teach them, and essentially kings would start wrapping their heads, and they would wear it in court, and then everybody. And now you've got turbans kind of being part of the vision of the wealthy, in the early days. But essentially, wearing something wrapped will essentially help you to experience and contain this organ that's on top of your head, and to have deeper experiences. But over time, over generations, it became for Sikhs more as a symbol than an actual practical experience,
Mm,
which is likely as you kind of talk with more Sikhs, you'll see, if you ask a Sikh, they're like, "Oh, this is my symbol of faith." Cool.
okay.
Good for you. You know, but for the most part, it is a symbol. Cool. Mostly, most people who are wearing it are having an experience there. And I remember being in India for my first time. I wore a certain style of turban at that time, and then I switched up my style to the Nahang style. Okay,
Okay.
this is more of a warrior style. This here's a house turban that I'm wearing, so it's short. I can go play basketball in it real quick and wrap it up. I keep part of Sikhism. We keep our hair, so it contains all my hair. It's not waking back and forth in my eyes or ears. It's all contained up there. And by wrapping hair on the top of the head, we'll pull Kundalini energy upwards as well. So during the day, we wrapped our hair up on top of the skull so that it pulls energy up the spine. And at night we braid it down so the energy goes down and we can rest. So essentially turbans became a symbol, and that's kind of where it's at mostly in modern Sikhs. But at its very base, it's a practical experience.
Beautiful. And then the knife is just a symbol of like the warrior and protector, right?
Yeah. So essentially, when you have a bunch of free thinkers back in the day, it's very dangerous. And specifically at that time, it is very dangerous. Equality, especially in India, is massively revolutionary thinking. And it so happened to be, Islam, not that there's any issue with Islam, but the Muslims at that time were very passionate about spreading Muslim. And so you have all these yogis and these meditators who believe in equality, and then and at that time, it was, it's only 500 years ago. It's not very long. At that time, kings and courts the kings and the wealthy were all wearing turbans. And then you have all of these yogis walking around in a religion that's growing. Not that they're signing up religion, but essentially if you come from nothing and then somebody comes and tells you can be anything and you're pure as you are, and you can have food, you can have shelter, you can be served and feel that grace of this experience of being alive, you're going, people start wrapping their heads, and you have this growing free thinkers, that think they're equal to the kings. And the kings, mostly practicing Islam at that time, were very passionate about spreading Islam throughout history. You can see all the different Islamic wars across the continents. And so essentially they persecuted a lot of these free thinkers in Northwest India and the Punjab area. And they were literally killing. And at that time, giving your life, really right now, still today, giving your life for something greater than yourself is the greatest act you can do. That conviction, that experience. So people at that time were gladly giving up their life. I would definitely, not me, but people, I'm speaking of people back in the day, would be martyrs, to happily do it. And one day, one of the masters came along and said, "Listen, we can stand up for ourselves as long as we need to protect ourselves, or someone else who can't, like a child or someone who just is not able, an elder. Then you can protect them as well." And so they took up arms at that time to protect themselves because it was very incessant and constant. And so essentially, the yogic practitioners at times started adorning knives, and then it got worse. It kept getting even worse. And then at that time, yogis started to create militant, essentially, faction known as the Nahangs. Right? So really, the Nahangs are the militant yogic faction that kind of grew out of the tremendous amount of persecution. And these guys were straight killers. For that time and space, they were straight killers. 40 of them against thousands. There's actual records of Muslim in the Muslim army, of just these Sikhs, where they would just keep fighting and fighting and fighting and fighting. And they developed a specific fighting tactic that was very incredible for the time and space, called Gatka. where you could use a sword and take on multiple people at the same time. And they had energy for days. They would fast and they would practice, and they had breath work and they had meditation, and they were straight killers. Not so much these days because it's not needed.
Right.
But essentially, Sikhs and yogis, we adapted the thinking and the concept that you can stand up for yourself and someone else, and that was a beautiful evolution of the community, and that's where the blade comes in keeping two blades on you at all times is really the protocol. You want to have one for your spiritual experience and another one for the earthly experience.
Okay.
I call them midi and pity, two blades. Essentially, these blades are more symbolic today. Essentially, they're keeping that energy on you at all times is a constant reminder to cut through negativity of the ego, cut through the negativity of what my perfectionism, my self-doubt, my vulnerability, and allow myself to be vulnerable. So keeping a knife isn't just utilitarian, but it is also a reminder that that I too can face the battles of the mind that I experience. So there's a lot.
Yeah, thank you so much. That's a beautiful explanation, and I really appreciate you coming on today, Har-Dev. It's been such an honor to have you. We talked about a lot of really awesome, beautiful topics, and maybe we can do a part 2 at some point.
Let's do it, Peter. Appreciate you letting me ramble, bruv. It's really good to see you. And
great to see you too, man.
Thank you.
All right. Until next time, brother. Thank you again. Take care.